I was just looking into some tweets,
Okay.
and they're really interesting. There's some information about like ridiculous money that was spent by the government in 2023.
Oh no, I want to see what were the categories.
So this one is this one is mostly ridiculous ones in like a funny way. So like there's $3 million dedicated into watching hamsters fight on asteroids.
Steroids?
Sorry, yeah.
Why would they need to spend money on that?
So yeah, so like there's a lot of
they're testing steroids on hamsters.
Yeah,
like the U.S. government's testing steroids on hamsters.
Yeah, and they see them fight. Or like method monkeys for like a ridiculous amount. It's like this is very interesting. There's going to be a lot of these coming out, I feel like.
But I just why? Like, what could be the reason?
Well, the reason is mostly because I think it's probably they're trying to understand how human body can react to certain substances by testing them on animals. We always do that, so it's not something new.
Mm-hmm.
But
is it like, I normally would think like, companies would test on animals, not the government?
Well, government funds a lot of labs and a lot of universities and a lot of projects.
Mm-hmm. That seems like a more recent phenomenon. No?
I think it's been going on for a while.
Yeah.
I remember like there was like a controversy around like, something that had to do with like chickens and making them like using them for I don't know, I don't want to get into that, but this is like a long time ago.
Okay.
And I think like we always had this situation with science, which sometimes is actually very cool because there are like, for example, like that the effects of fluoride on frogs.
They're making the frogs gay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, it sounds funny, but like, well, some of these actually are showing results that people are like, wow, didn't know that could be the case.
Could happen. I mean, when I was younger, like 3rd grade or something, there was like a huge, I don't know, like there was a huge, like, I don't know what it was, but I just remember being young and hearing something about there's fluoride in our water. Everyone's like being like nullified almost and like tamed with the fluoride.
Yeah.
And it's so weird to see like what, like 10, 15 years later, like they're like actually fixing the problem, but also like, why did we just think about it again? Like, where did that come from?
I think there's some of the stuff I experienced that in growing up as well. I mean, in Iran it's completely different. It's like when you turn the water on, you just like pour the water into the glass. You can literally see fluoride moving in the water for the first like 2-3 seconds. I don't know if you...
Is that like, does all water, even like the clearest water, when you like put that much force, or is that just particles that are in the water that shouldn't be there?
Yeah, it's fluoride, literally.
And like...
You don't get that reaction when you...
Is that why
glacier water?
Like glasses over time get like degraded on the inside and have like that white crusty stuff because the fluoride from tap water?
I don't think that's the fluoride.
That's
Fluoride,
dishwasher.
Yeah. I think not the dishwasher either. I think it's other minerals in the water that over time create like a layer of crust. But specifically with fluoride, it's visible for a few seconds and then it disappears. So you don't really see it. But
okay, so it's like that spin that like there's like a flush and then a spin and it's like murky a little bit and then it gets clear. Yeah. That murkiness is fluoride.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
Didn't know that. I was just told that like that's normal and...
No, it was told to me that is normal as well.
Okay.
Then we moved to San Francisco and I'm an adult at this point.
Yeah.
And I am investigating like how all of these old pipes in San Francisco are like carrying like clean water for us, because like this city is really like the water system here is like 200 years old, something like that. So a lot of the pipes have been degrading for a long time, but like they haven't been replaced. So there's literally like a lot of lead in the water, because and that's something that I didn't experience growing up, because like our water circulation system was compared to like San Francisco was very new. And I literally had to you see that water filter that we have. I literally had to buy a water filter. It's supposed
to be better than Brita, right? Like it takes the lead out.
It specifically is designed around microplastics and lead cleansing.
Wow. So there's something like I had to study in college like SF water quality, and there's like so many old pipes that have so much stuff in the water that even if we clean the water of fluoride, there's still like the pipes have like residues and problems, and probably still buildup of fluoride in the pipes. Like how will that work?
I don't know if there will be the buildups of fluoride.
Okay. It doesn't build up like that.
Yeah, I think I did not do a lot of like research in this topic.
I don't know anything about water.
Yeah,
really.
But I don't think it's something that it remains in the water circulation system. But the fact that we're consuming it every day is the major topic. And I don't know, you just see like Bobby actually was appointed as the Secretary of Health today. This is what I just saw. Yes.
Wow.
So he's officially going to.
You know what would be so cool to see the government do with that is like go investigate all of the food in America and like see all of the like uncover basically the food industry. Yeah. Because there's so many question marks of like what are they doing behind the scenes? Like what is in our products? What is not being labeled? Banning, red dye and all of those things. I don't know. Do you think they'll like ban some foods?
I see Bobby being really serious about the things that he was talking about pre-election. And one of the things that he was really upset about was all of the additives to the food. Like why are we using the seed oil for like fast food, and why are we using corn like syrup as like the taste enhancer? A lot of these. So I think this is the chance for him.
Yeah, that's really
he's
cool.
been waiting for this that was his whole presidential campaign, and now that he's there, I think
he got what he wanted to kind of like.
Yeah, so like basically like he wanted to make America healthy, and this is a really cool way of like looking at how much power he can have to change things around, because I think he could be really influential, and I think this is my guess. I think there are a lot of fast food chain that would want to change things a little bit as well, because I feel like they would want normal day-to-day Americans go back to using their food and like consume their
So do you think with all of these changes grocery prices will go up even more than they have been?
No, well, grocery prices shouldn't go up, because groceries are like your choice, like you're choosing what you want to buy, right? I think like if he's going to mandate the things that are at the federal level, so like public school food, or like anything that it's related to like elderly people, or like bigger scale
government food programs,
like Burger King and McDonald's and all of these chain.
Food is a huge thing. Like I think honestly, like I do think grocery prices will go up, because they're going to, my assumption, I have no idea what they're going to do, but my assumption would be that they would make like healthier choices in schools, like ban the seed oils and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and kids' food first and stuff like that, the most important things. But I would say that they would like certainly just like try to ban certain things in all foods in the US. And that will mean that they have to replace it with something else that's more expensive, which will just drive the price of everything, I think. So it would be more expensive to buy food, but it would be higher quality. So you would just level off, like, we have two categories in the US of food. We have like rich, good food, and we have like poor, bad food. It would kind of like maybe create this like level playing field, which I like agree with. I think that's like necessary.
Like, I think a lot of people are talking about European standards for food, right? Like day-to-day people, the things that are in our hot pockets, for example, right now, or the grocery store
like
pizzas,
the chemicals.
Yeah, so or not just the chemicals, just like the taste enhancers or
and it's not really food. Like if you eat like really good quality food and then you eat like food that is just like the lowest quality possible, you can taste that there's no nutrition and you get hungry right away. It's just like glucose and sugar.
100%.
So like I understand, like I'm totally for what he's doing because I know that it will increase health. Like overall, which will decrease a lot of money for the US in long term. It's just interesting to think about like how you would implement that.
I think it would be much easier on a big scale to do it than do it on a like case by case, like with all of the companies or all of the fast food chain, because I think like when you start implementing a new rule, that affects the bottom of the supply chain, which is like the farmer level. Okay, so like when we hear all of the farmers using some sort of a additives to preserve McDonald's potatoes for a long period of time, that tells me that if we really want to remove that, I've heard it's kind of a substance that when they put it on the potatoes, it can keep the potatoes up like fresh for up to 6 months, and you literally cannot touch it for a few weeks. Like it's that toxic. And we change those practices and we make it like, okay, like, so here's how we can increase the transparency within the base of the supply chain and make sure like all of these farmers are understanding like you don't have to do something like harmful to people if you are afraid of like if you cut that preservative, your crop will not be purchased by major corporations that want it. That's going to be a lot of change.
That was the one thing when I was in Denmark that I could not get the hang of, is literally you have to eat your vegetables within like 1 or 2 days and they go bad, or the fruit, like all of the food that you buy in the store, you got to eat it. Like they go to the store every day, and I would buy stuff and I would let it sit in the fridge and I would be like, oh, I need this for the week. Like, because that's like American habit is like you buy groceries for the week or even 2 weeks. And you plan your meals from that and it just stays fresh. So I would throw away a lot of food and like my roommates would get mad because they're like, you're wasting a lot of food. And I'm like, this is like crazy, like to me, that it just goes bad right away. And so that might be like a whole habit shift thing that would have to, there's just so much about American food that is so unique and bad from the rest of the world that it's gonna be really interesting to see that change. Like we're gonna have to change a lot of habits.
That's for sure something that I'm really looking forward to see change. A lot of things that people talk about in general in the society that, oh, this is American and it should change. I don't really believe in that. For example, I'm not a really big fan of public transportation. I actually really like that America is built around cars.
Well, Waymo is like my favorite thing. If we can just make that the transportation for everyone, like it would be fun,
Yeah, that's 100% the future.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like people are like, oh yeah, we gotta not use that many cars and improve the railway system in the United States or stuff like that. Like I am mostly like, yeah, no, cars are awesome. I think we should actually have more American cars.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the things that I don't want to change about the US. But the food, it's not that I'm like really worried about like if it's going to kill me per se. I think I'm mostly worried, like not worried, mostly annoyed with the taste. There's like a sharpness to the taste of the food. There's some like, if you're used to eating Oreos, if you're used to eating like Kit Kat, if you have tasted McDonald's somewhere outside of the US, and then you taste all of them in the US, Cheetos, like all of these things.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Coca-Cola, I think it's the same everywhere.
No, it's not.
Are you sure?
If you try it in Mexico, they use cane sugar,
Uh-huh.
and it's like the most delicious thing you've ever had. I mean, they have like in California, they have like Mexican Coca-Colas in the bottle.
Yeah.
It's like
I've heard
so
those
much
are
different.
the same. They're
No,
just the bottling is different.
I don't think so.
But
I think they use real sugar.
yeah, overall, I think like we totally can move on from this system, because I like the taste of those. It reminds me of my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I taste it in the US, it just completely throws me off, because it's like, this is not what I'm used to taste, because the ingredients that they use is different.
And if they're already like producing it healthier for other countries, why can't they just do that for the US?
Well, there's a lot of, you know,
Right,
US,
that's a big question. Like,
US is a vast country, and there's a lot of like areas that food, like we lived in Walla Walla. There's a lot of areas like Walla Walla that are not near any fresh supply of food. They're kind of like inland, and it takes time. Like we had Safeway in Walla Walla, and it would take 3-4 days for that Safeway to receive their, like a lot of their food from Seattle. And you know, like Seattle is a hub that probably will receive a lot of the food from other parts of the country. And I feel like that's just something that is causing this additives and all of the other things to keep the food safe and keep the food like consumable for after a long transportation or period of time. One of the most ridiculous things that I experienced in Walla Walla about the food was I could buy a French brioche that was literally imported from France. But so it's brioche. It's bread.
Yeah.
You know, bread does not last more than a few hours. How is that possible?
and it's like that's a special spongy fresh
Yes,
bread.
exactly. It's like,
Yeah.
that's insane.
So it would have to go, like if it was from France, it would have to go on a plane for like 18 hours and then at least on a truck for like 2 hours or longer, right?
It's so, I don't even want to get into that. It's
And
gonna be
then the processing that it's in the
long
grocery store for a week, like,
and then end up in a city like Walla Walla that is not even a first port for like the entry, like maybe it's the 4th or 5th port of like, you know.
I mean, it is impressive, but it's also like we have local bakeries. Why?
Well, that's exactly the point. If you eliminate that, I'm pretty sure French people France does not allow those brioche buns to be sold in France.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because obviously, like, what kind of additives you're adding to that for it to be exactly that spongy and preserved for that long period of time?
It's interesting though, because like I feel like America's food system is very much like worldly. Like they're like, let's import everything from everywhere all the time and keep it in any store so you can just access it at any time. And I mean, like Trader Joe's business model is exactly that. Like they made a store for other imported foods and wines and all of that stuff. Like, are you going to change that culture of just only American food? Because we don't have like American food. Like,
no, I think that's a really good point. I really believe that we changed the culture of the food in the US with TikTok. People make their own brioche now from scratch.
Yeah.
So like there's Americans don't make American foods as much.
We have
So
more time, right?
We have more time. thank God to GPT. It's doing a lot of good to the world,
Saving us time.
saving a lot of time for people to not do monotonous work. And
But at the same time, like, we don't really we cook less than we did during the pandemic and
you
stuff.
and me,
Yeah.
well, I think our lifestyle is very busy, okay? But I think general public of the US, if you look at the charts of food consumption in the US, we are at the height of grocery shopping in the history of US.
Yeah, I mean, we still get groceries.
This means that people are making their food from scratch. This means that there's less dependency on prepared food, imported food, fast food. This is showing that Americans want to go towards a healthy trend of food. And it's also showing that, yeah, we love to, you know, we are seeing like the pastries that people make in the Europe. Like there's something funny about like Iran as well. It's like people are saying that you can't find any other kind of pizza but Napolitano pizza in Tehran right now. It's like it became so popular that it suddenly became like, oh, like, is this Italy or Iran? Like that's something that
and
I think
it's
is
like
happening.
Persian people are making the
Yeah,
style.
exactly. It's like
Interesting.
because of TikTok. It's
Yeah.
just so easy for you to learn how to make something from scratch. Specifically, I would say like international food.
Do you think there's any new food that will be invented? Or is like we invented every kind of food possible?
Yeah, fusion. I think there's a lot of
Fusion
fusion
is a
happening.
thing.
Like, don't we have like a Persian-Mexican fusion in
Yeah,
San
we should.
Francisco?
That's exactly what I thought of when you said that.
Yeah, and there's
we haven't tried it yet, but I
There's
don't
a-
know if that would be good.
I don't know either.
Like saffron rice tacos or what?
I think that would be I have not tried it yet. Although I have heard a lot about a taco truck in San Diego that is Tahdig tacos. You know?
Like the shell is tadik?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that sounds really good.
I
What's
know.
inside? Like chicken or?
Yeah, just normal taco stuff. Just
Wow.
instead of tortillas, they're
You
using
could make
Tahdig.
that. You could try to make that.
Yeah, it's a genius idea actually,
would
but
be
someone
fun.
trademarked it, and now it's like a taco. It's like a brand in San Diego, and it's
So food trucks are actually like like they're still alive and well and maybe making like fusion food. Is that kind of like
well, the fusion. Yeah, I think totally they do a lot.
Walla Walla
yeah.
had a lot of that.
That's
It
true.
was really popular.
They're doing a lot of fusion food, and I also think new American restaurants that are expensive right now. Okay, those are the frontiers. Those
Yeah.
are the ones that we probably will see in fast foods in 40, 50 years from now. I mean, I'm going too far ahead, but I think
Interesting.
like a lot of new American restaurants that not necessarily Michelin star, but like kind of like mid high level of like expense are actually doing a lot of fusion, different kinds of food. And
a lot of like like Asian New American fusion
sure.
is like the biggest thing in SF. I feel like.
yeah, and I genuinely think that food can evolve, and it does evolve. Like we have a certain brand of Italian food in Iran. The way that we make the pasta just makes Italians cringe, but it's culturally adapted way
Yeah.
of doing it, you know. And the way that we like a lot of American food, like we do hamburgers, it's not the original form of hamburgers that we used to see in the world, you know. So it's I think there's some food that are the pillars of any society, that they will probably not change, and because they taste comfort and they're very actually, like you know, familiar taste.
Yeah. So like we were talking about culture change and the way you're talking and describing it, I'm like, we used to eat out a lot. We tried a lot of restaurants in the city. We tried a lot of food trucks. Like for the first few years of our like marriage, we were just eating out all the time.
Yeah.
And this year I feel like we haven't eaten out like maybe like a handful of times.
Yeah.
And I don't really miss it. Like I don't really miss the culture of good food.
Yeah.
Which I like the quality of the food. Like I really miss, well, I mean we have a really high standard of food quality.
Yeah.
So it's like that I can't like go lower on that.
Yeah.
But in general, like the culture of going out to a restaurant and eating good food, it feels unnatural to me now. And I don't know if that will change, like, because I feel like a lot of it, you just said it, like Americans are eating at home. I don't like, do you think it will change and people will go out to eat again? Or like, will we have more private chefs popping up, or will like people be cooking at home more? Like,
I think we will have a lot of more private chefs.
Yeah.
Integrating within just normal restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're in a transition period that there are a lot of people, like normal day-to-day people at home, that know better than chefs in the cities to make a good food for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So they're already, like people like our age, there's a lot of Gen Z people doing that. They're already making food at home to a level that makes them independent of eating out from.
There was like
outside.
a girl making homemade cereal. Like, how do you make homemade cereal?
Yeah, that's like, so,
like it's so advanced.
that's so like, that's such an impressive thing. I think like a lot of people are paying attention to their health. That's they're like, I saw that girl, like she was talking about like, oh, like cinnamon crunch toast is poison because of all of the additives. So I had to do this because I love it and I miss the taste, but I want to make it homemade. And
she said something like, my son wants cinnamon toast crunch.
Yeah, that's true.
But I will not feed him that poison.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have to make it from scratch at home. And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds so good. That was my favorite thing growing up as a kid. Like, I would eat it for dessert. Was like my favorite thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like we're doing this new thing. At least our generation is creating that. And I think millennials are doing that as well. Not so much Gen X or, boomers, but this is going to shift the culture. So food is going to change. We live in San Francisco. We walk around. Where do we go? We go to San Frank. Mm-hmm. Why do we go to San Frank? They have fresh pastries that are modern. Okay.
I don't think that's the reason we go. We go to St. La Maria's.
That's that one as well.
That's where we go for fresh pastries. We go to St. Frank for the culture.
Well, so the culture creates that kind of food. Okay. So it's all tangled with each other. So you have a young culture. What they want out of a place that they want to make it their hub is your coffee has to be freshly brewed, or not freshly brewed, freshly roasted. And it's like we want a specific taste. So they provide that. Mm-hmm. Then they say, okay, like what else do you want? They're like, well, we want pastries, but we don't want those kind of pastries. We want this specific kind of pastry. Yeah. And that's something that I see popping up around the city of San Francisco. So when you walk around the city, or like just living in the city, I think that we are experiencing a change, that the same neighborhood or the same block that you see a new American food restaurant popping up and it's full of young people, you have a Vietnamese food, or you have something that used to be really popular back in the day, but it's not getting any people getting into that restaurant eating. And then you look at the food source and you're like, oh, like this Thai place or this Vietnamese place is like unloading boxes of prepared materials for their food that like some stuff are extremely like processed, mm-hmm. which is like not a preferred way of like consuming food for young people. So they subconsciously with our taste buds is like, Gen Z is just so evolved at this point because of that because of that period that you mentioned, that all of the Gen Z people were just out all the time eating, trying out different food. And then we were making our own food because of the pandemic at home, because of the quarantine.
So that's kind of like a sequence of events that, okay, we like loved to explore food in the world when we were like kids, and then we couldn't explore it, so we had to just try to make it because we had a lot of energy and we were cooped up, and that was like, we missed that culture the most. So then everyone started learning how to cook, and some people just became really talented and just like went all in. I mean, we tried to make bread we really tried.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get it to rise. So like
true.
I'm pretty sure there's some people that like got really good at cooking, but
Yeah.
like we weren't one of those people.
We did two, 3 tries and that didn't work.
Yeah, we gave up. We didn't care too much about like
Yeah.
the bread rising. But you mentioned like the culture of Saint Frank versus La Marias, and I'm wondering because when we go to La Marias, it's always like global. I hear people talking French. I hear people like speaking Spanish. Like
Yeah.
people from all over the world are like going to that cafe. Also, like the way that they dress is very global. Like they have a very French style. Versus Saint Frank is like super new American. It's like if you just had a box that was all white and a laptop, like it's just like that.
Yeah.
And all of the people who go there are also just like neat and tidy and organized and like high level, people.
Yeah, different culture, totally. I do
So, like,
resonate.
how does the food determine that? Or is it the company? Or is it like what determines that?
Yeah, so this is a really good point. I think Americans want this is the feeling that I get from Americans. They want consistency, but they have a bare minimum that you have to meet when it comes to food for them to constantly come to you.
Mm-hmm.
So Le Marias has a great set of pastries. They have the best croissant in the city.
Yeah.
They're
Literally the best croissant in the city.
Yeah, and it's a very atmospheric cafe with a good vibe, a European vibe that you go. And Saint Frank is exactly like you explained. But the difference is when you go to Le Marias, pastry is super high, but then their coffee is Cologne, which is it's like
a generic brand.
Yeah, it's a very, very generic
They
brand.
don't roast their own beans because they're making their own pastries. Like Saint Frank gets their pastries from Juniper, which is like on the same street that they make it themselves. And they do one's like a bakery and they sell Saint Frank coffee, and then the other one is Saint Frank coffee, but they have the pastries.
Yeah.
So it's like a team building thing.
Which is American.
But La Marais doesn't have that.
Yeah, which is American, which I think like that's what Americans go
trading.
Yeah.
That's like the Wild West, and you have like one saloon, and you have like your mail and your newspaper and your tailor, and like they're all on the same block, and everyone in town goes to that like one, and then they just like trade from each other. Like it gives me that vibe. Like, but it's Polk Street. Like
yeah, definitely. Like we treat neighborhoods like that, and if you have an American mentality, you totally trade within your neighborhood like that.
That's cool. I like that.
Super cool.
You don't think I think Europeans do that too in a different way.
Well, not in the US. I'm pretty sure in when you walk in the streets of Paris, it's even more in like intertwined. But we're experiencing something that in San Francisco, that the pockets of so-called like Americans popping up, that it's kind of like separating unwantedly with any agenda or anything. It's just a attraction towards a specific mentality that is creating a unity for Americans.
Okay, this is a really interesting topic, because I was just thinking about, so I lived in SF in like 2015 to like 2019, in and out, and that kind of felt like in SF where, okay, you would go to Chinatown, you would go to Japantown, you would go to Mission, and these neighborhoods were like very culturally dense, and community was very heavy there, that you would experience a certain culture in a certain part of the city, right? And more recently, like maybe like the last 2 years, it feels more like just everyone from all over the world is everywhere all at once. And now, more recently, it feels like, okay, there's a lot of Americans that are moving here that are young, and they're populating large neighborhoods in mass.
Yeah.
And it's just so interesting, the transition of like how I wonder what it will turn into. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a really good observation. I felt the same thing. SF was an extremely international city when I landed in 2018 and started walking the streets of SF. I were like, where are the Americans? Like literally from the national like security perspective to getting into like local like neighborhood like bars, you would experience international mentality to all degrees. And
mostly tourists, right? Like
no. I would actually say like people who were international working
yeah,
like in San Francisco, and they left. They're not here anymore, and that created a vacancy because we flipped. Like it's not just San Francisco. The world flipped towards more nationalistic way of looking at life rather than global. And this created suddenly, we moved in 2022. We moved back to San Francisco November of 2022.
Yeah.
And it was still an international city. We would go to raves and you would say, wow, like I'm so shocked that there's still this many different cultures in San Francisco.
Well, it was almost like there wasn't any Americans anywhere. Like I was like, where are the Americans?
Exactly.
And now it's the opposite.
And now it's the complete opposite. We walked,
and that's not that long ago. It's like 2 years. It's so
not
fast.
Even 2 years. It was last summer. Raves, all international. Then it hit. The clock started reversing. The culture started shedding. It's like old, like, layers. And then 3-4 weeks ago, we were walking in our neighborhood during the Fleet Week. Most of the apartment buildings were having a party and the noises were coming out. And it's a completely American activity.
Well, that's specifically because, I mean, I would say international people do that too, though.
No.
But Americans see the Fleet. We saw so many people. They go like to the city and they don't go on their roof.
International people do it.
Yeah.
With Americans. And I have not seen this many popping up in the city of San Francisco because I have not seen this many Americans moving to San Francisco.
Well, that just tells me also like how many Americans and just people in general are just in their homes. And when there's something like a citywide event and you see so much population, and it's not like overwhelming, but it's like, I don't see this many people on a typical day. You don't know how many people really live here.
And I think, 90% of the time, people our age don't go out.
Yeah.
Of their home.
Which it's insane because it's a city. It's not like you're in a suburb where there's nothing to do. Like, it's a city.
It's a city. Yeah, but it's a quiet city. Because people don't go out. And that's like totally like they're just home, when you're home you don't really go out that much.
Yeah, and imagine like how many people don't go out on Fleet Week because they don't have a group of friends to go watch it with. They're just alone.
Yeah.
Like there's probably so many more people.
Yeah, I think that's the general vibe of the city.
Yeah. Do you think it's different other places? I don't think it's different.
Do they have Fleet Week?
No, I mean like population-wise, people going out. I think maybe New York is a little bit more vibrant, but not by that much.
I think New York is extremely quiet, like just like San Francisco. Didn't your mom say and send us like some videos when she was traveling like around the country and she was like in Texas and it was very vibrant? Yeah,
so Nashville, she went to the city and I was like, wow, there's all these like people on the main street just walking.
Yeah.
And that was really shocking to me. So maybe Texas, Nashville, Florida are like populated and people are out in person.
Yeah, that's a possibility. But I think
that's crazy that we don't know. Like, how do we not know that?
Yeah, people stopped posting things online. Like, we were talking about this the other day. Like, when you post something on TikTok, you hear your own voices echo.
Mm-hmm.
It's like complete echo chamber of just bunch of accounts that are just constantly posting, and the rest of the people are not just like posting.
Are they not posting, or is it not visible to us?
I think they're not posting.
What are they doing then?
They're not opening social. They're not doing it right now. Nothing is happening. Like, people don't have money. This is the general issue.
So they're not posting on social media because they don't have money?
Because yeah, they don't go out.
But isn't the
things.
point of social media like it's free?
No, you post as if like you're doing something with, like, you know, that is
with
exciting.
your life.
Or
I see.
It's an activity that you're just out and about with your friends, and there's something share-worthy happening.
Yeah.
So I think that's the reason that people are not going out as much, because there's not that much. There's no FOMO when there's so many things happening online that you see these people are just doing a lot, and they're just going out and they're just like sitting with their friends, and they're just drunk in the bar singing to a karaoke song, or just like at a football stadium, like, you know, shouting. Anything that you can think of that is a gathering and people go out for, it's not happening to that scale at all. And I think like economical issues is the number one cause of that, because when money is expensive, well, you're like, okay, so like I really want to get drunk, but I rather get a six-pack for the price of one beer or two beer, like, you know, with my friends
like,
outside.
Americans would just normally like go to a park and drink with friends. If they're like really tight with money, they would still do free things that don't cost money, but with people.
That's very true. But on I would say on a societal scale, if you like zoom in to why this is not happening, it's a feeling around self-belief. I personally, when I started building Melo and quit my job, well, I don't make my own money. This is very simple, okay? And a lot of times I think of like my friends, and I'm like, oh, I want to hang out with these people. But then I'm like, well, I want to hang out with them, and I'm actually in a good spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of...
And that's just a perpetual cycle of everyone thinking, I don't have enough, so I can't give, so I can't see people that I want.
Exactly.
And it's just a never-ending loop.
It is an end. It will end. But it's something that...
When economics get better.
Yes.
Okay.
And that is one factor, I would say. But I also don't think that... I think another factor that is causing this quietness is a burnout, mental burnout. I think people did go out a lot, did do a lot. They are coming out of a very extreme, wild phase of their lives that was really chaotic socially.
Well, and I know that like people go to like they're very intentional with their activities. Like they go to music festivals, they go to see raves, they go see other performances, and they go with friends. But other than that, I don't really see people hanging out that often.
Yeah, and if they have some savings, they travel. I see people
traveling is like very common right now. Like I see a lot of girls that traveled Europe like past summer.
We still have a huge majority of millennial San Franciscans being digital nomads as well.
Yeah.
Like they still have their tech job, but they travel around, and the city is also quiet because there's not that many people in the city, because there's no need for them to physically be here when they actually can come, you know, back, stay for a while, and then just be like, you know, do their remote work from somewhere else.
I do get that feeling from Twitter too, that there's a lot of people that started little companies or a lot of different companies or made big money and then like are coasting off of that business for a while, that they live like globally, you know?
Yeah.
Like their mind shift is like they're just hopping around to all different places at all times. A month here, a month there, a few months here. Like maybe they have their home base, or maybe they don't even have a home and they're just like going from place to place.
Yeah.
But I don't even think it's like digital nomad anymore. I think that they just do that like as a lifestyle.
That's a lifestyle as well.
Yeah.
I don't think they call themselves digital nomads anymore. I never understood the concept of digital nomad. I never understood the concept of moving around. I think you live with me.
You're very nationalistic, actually.
I am very nationalistic, and that's exactly what I prefer for my life. I like to live in a city that I like, and the rest of the world doesn't really matter to me, just the people that I love.
There's like, yeah, some people say it's something that... Hello. Can I play footsies with you? You can't escape your life with a vacation. It's like you're just pausing and resetting. So it's like travel should always just be something that you work while you travel, because you should always just love what you do. And you told me that when we started dating, like a long time ago, you're like, I don't believe in vacations.
Yeah.
And as an American that literally traveled for most of my like teenage years, I was like, what? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you like mentally ill? Like, what do you mean you don't like vacations?
Yeah.
And I finally am like, this past year, understanding what you mean, because I enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I don't need to escape anything. I live in the best city in the world. I don't like, I've seen the world already. I don't really care like what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
you can see it online, you know, you can meet people and they can tell you. Obviously I want to travel again, but like, I think I would still work while traveling. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think I would take time off to rest like that.
Yeah, I personally cannot rest. Like, resting is something that is not defined for me, not because I'm trying to signal that I'm like a super productive person, which I am, but it's not because I really want to be super productive. It's just because my natural state of curiosity can never let me just turn things off.
Yeah, you're like hyperactive bunny all the time. Like, zzz.
That's how you should live. I love it.
It's fun. I mean, like, always staying curious, always like understanding what's going on, and always feeling like your life has purpose.
This is one of my pet peeves in people recently for the past few years. And that is, they somehow, for some reason, think that they know everything about people online because they're called terminally online.
Yeah.
Just because they know everything that happens at all times, they can predict who you are and like how you think. And I think like one of the most important things that you should have in life is curiosity.
Dude, honestly, that is the worst mental health that you can do for yourself, is be terminally online. Like, if I spend 2 hours at night scrolling online, I like feel bad. Like, I just mentally feel heavy and I feel bad.
Yeah.
It's like, know your body. You shouldn't be doing that. Like, you should gain information, but don't like overload yourself to the point that you don't care about human interaction. Like,
yeah, if it's causing you to not want to have curiosity about the people that are actually reaching out. Like, I think this is one of the really big problems that I have with my Instagram. I lower down probably the number of people that I follow and follow me 4 times by a huge magnitude. And the reason that I do that is like there is always a group of people on my Instagram looking into my stories, and they never say anything. They always just look.
They're like a ghost.
Okay, yeah. So like there's always just looking, and I'm like, what is the purpose? Are you just like, so there's a huge problem here. Societally, this is a huge problem. I don't want to call them stalkers because I don't think they're stalking. I think they're also curious. I think what is wrong is we held people back from replying to our stories because of all of the screenshots that we shared and all of the shamings of like, oh, you're a guy and you shouldn't message me, or you're a girl and if you message me, you're totally like signaling something to me. And this whole culture has grown to a point that people out of curiosity open their social media. They look into their story of the people that they follow, and then they do not follow up with those people. It's just like, I have people that I had on my Instagram since I went back to Instagram 2021. this is like 3 years, 4 years already. Do not have a single interaction with them. They see all of my Instagram stories and probably all of my posts as well. The explanation of that is something that I think only happens in a world that people don't have an intention to continuously live, reproduce, and repopulate the earth, because the only way that you can do all of those things is to be curious and keep your contact with humans, because otherwise you're not going to be able to do that.
You have to be able to maintain communication with other people.
Sorry.
Footsies. In order to meet your basic needs. And if you can no longer communicate with the world around you, you're not going to make it.
If you're holding yourself back when you have a curiosity, but you're like, oh, the social norms are telling me to not send a message to this person, you're doing yourself a huge disfavor.
And also, like, get used to rejection. I'm rejected every day, all the time. Like, I get so much rejection.
Building a startup is like that.
Yeah, it's really hard. It's like, I have the most amazing product at my fingertips and it's going to change the world. And you don't even, like, respond to my email. Like, you can't even respond to my email. But I understand. It's not like that. You know, it's like, they don't know me. They have hundreds of emails, whatever. Maybe I'm reaching too high too. That's another thing. It's like, you got to reach 2 steps ahead of yourself. You can't reach 100 steps ahead of yourself.
Yeah, I mean, that is totally right. I was just in the realm of the people who I follow and they follow me.
Yeah, which is equal playing field.
So
if they're snobbing you and they're at your level, that's deeply systematically a problem. And it's 2 things, actually. That is constantly seeing the same things, so they get numb to it. Like, honestly, I think we're tired of photos of people's lives. Like, we get it. Like,
I'm not.
Really?
Absolutely not.
I think people are numb to photos because when I posted my vlogs, there was a lot higher interaction. Like, people were looking at my profile, they were looking at Melo, they were planning like engagements and meetings with me.
Look, I think I actually want to rephrase what I said. I care about the photos even if I care about the person. And if I don't care about the person, I don't want to have them on my Instagram. This is not
but
LinkedIn.
You're a very special case because not that many people are curating their life. Like, I don't even curate my life that much. I have like 500 people and I know like maybe 200 of them. Like, I know all of them. I've talked to all of them in person.
Yes.
Maybe 20 I haven't.
Yes.
But I haven't talked to like most of those people in 10 years.
Yeah.
So there's only like a small circle of people that I really like engage with.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean I just delete everyone because there's like curiosity, like you said.
That's my style.
Yeah.
And I think like I care deeply instead of widely. So I choose to care about less people throughout my day than more people. That's how I'm looking at it. But obviously, when I'm on LinkedIn, my approach is completely different. Most of the people that I have on LinkedIn, I haven't met them, but they have connections with me. And I have a lot of people, more than 1,400 people, which is impossible for you to know all of those people personally. But you expand because that's how you get your business go.
Yeah.
So it depends. If you are in the middle, and a lot of people use Instagram in the middle like that, I don't get it. Because it's like, well, yeah, go to my LinkedIn and you'll see that I have connections with people that I really don't care that much about, but it's a business connection and one day that might help. And on my Instagram, I'm very picky. So you got to know how to play with different toys.
Different toys. You have to pick like, okay, which space is business, which space is personal. But at the same time, everywhere should be business. So it's kind of like everywhere, yes, everywhere is like that. But businesses, I think we're finally getting to the age that like every connection that you make is going to be for business, not friends.
I think we're entering that.
Yeah.
You're right about that.
So it's like all of your old friends are just going to be memories unless you're actively friends with them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, these people, most of the my interactions that I have are with new people rather than like old friends.
yeah, exactly. And also like your social media should be something that people can just like reference as, oh, if I want to talk to this person, they check your social media to see like what you care about and who you are and what you're doing. And then they'll like make a decision on if they want to interact with you.
Yeah.
But it's not like I don't think you need to be famous on social media and reach a whole bunch of like random strangers unless you're actually having like that much impact and influence in a direct way that you're like selling your business or meeting those people.
Yeah.
You know, unless you want to be an influencer.
Yeah.
But it's like it's very dynamic.
It's very dynamic. That's very true. I do believe there's a huge intersection between the real life friendships and business friendships. I think like they're very intertwined with each other. And I love the don't get me wrong, I love the social media world as a concept. Do I like the way that people are treating it right now? I think people are getting too tribal and too emotional and too opinionated about other people, and I think like this is becoming a little bit turn off, so people don't open their social media because there's just too polarized or too much of a fight on too many different directions. But in general, I think like social media will never go away. Actually, real life events went away. They're not going to come back. They will not be.
They will come back in like curated new ways that are very different from what we experienced before. They're not going to be large groups. Like we went to a party in 2024.
Yeah.
Amazing party, but it did not feel like a party in 2019.
No, absolutely not.
Like it's a completely different
vibe. And they
vibe.
were aiming for that, which was honestly a great, the best party that I've been to the past 2-3 years.
Yeah. SFFC.
Yeah.
Little shout out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think social media, like I wanted to disagree with you because I think that's going to change. I think we need new platforms, obviously, a little mellow shout out, but like I'm already starting to feel like there's a mind shift happening, and we transferred power over to new people, and either there's going to be a battle and a fight, or those people are going to trump the culture and they're going to feel free to talk to each other and interact, which I'm really hopeful for, because they're going to be using it for business and making money, not for politics. And I think the biggest problem that we had with social media was everyone politically correcting each other and just talking mean to each other all the time, instead of just like doing deals and transactions and like mutual benefit situations. That like if we get back to a level playing field where people can just interact to enjoy life again, that would be amazing.
Well, that's not happening right now.
It's going to. I think it will. So I don't know if it will happen on current platforms though. I'm a bit hesitant to say that it would.
Well, there's so you probably saw the shift that a lot of people left X after Trump's election to platforms like Threads or Blue Sky. And you tell me that there's some of those people I know for a fact, and their businesses as well, like very prominent names. They're like, oh, like this is not my platform anymore because it's ran by someone that I don't align with. And I still think like people are making political decisions. The reason that people are not using TikTok as much, rightfully so, is because of the link that it has to Chinese government. So we need new platforms.
It's not just that. It's like the platform will ultimately create a new wave of people that were not involved or didn't like old platforms, so they wouldn't use it in the same way. And with that evolution, it will become something that is completely free for a while, and it might become an echo chamber a long time down the road. The problem with all of these is like it's old, And
Yes.
so we've reached the limits of the tech.
Also, we reached the limit of tech. We reached the limit of the culture.
Yeah.
So you cannot use a globalist platform in a nationalist era.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Okay, you need
That's
to create.
why, actually, I think Instagram's thriving way more right now
Yeah.
because it's more nationalistic.
Yeah, it almost feels like, okay, so we talked about this. Bobby Kennedy is going to be in charge of the national, like, health. He's going to be the secretary of, like, health. Like, and I'm like comparing, like, okay, like, could we in 2024 have appointed someone from the Bush administration? Because both of these systems are Republican, right? So could we have done that? The answer is yes, we could have, because it's the same party.
Yeah.
But are we going to do that? And the answer is no, because we don't live in the same time. Why are we still using the old systems like Instagram, X, YouTube? The answer is people are building those platforms. We are building that platform. We know that people want a new platform.
Yeah.
The resistance from the old world broke during this election. I would say, like, it broke. Like, there was a system that there were a group of people who wanted to keep that culture because they liked it. There's nothing wrong with that. They wanted,
Or they were profiting off of that, you know.
well, more important than that, I think they personally aligned with that globalist mentality. And they were at the majority. They were making profits, and the system was going. And then other people who were not fully aligned were still living their lives in peace, and they would be like, okay, I will try this out as well. And then gradually people were like, okay, like, we need a new blood. We need a new mentality. We need a shift. We want to go back to our own values, our American values. Like, how many times you heard and had conversations around founding fathers as a tech founder? You wouldn't really have that in 2000s, you know? Like, all of these platforms built to maximize their reach globally. And that's why, like, you see Elon talking about, like, X is number one source of news in Brazil now. X is number one source of news in Netherlands, in France. And then in reality, we are sitting in San Francisco and we're like, we don't even know what's going on in Brazil. And we used to care. I can
Yeah, we
guarantee
used to care. I went to, like, a documentary about Brazil's election when I was, like, in 2019, and I was like, wow, that was so fascinating. And now I'm, like, overwhelmed by so much news that it's like, also, like, how is this productive for me? What can I do in Brazil? And should I be doing anything in Brazil? Probably not, because
Probably not.
I'm not from Brazil.
I mean, this is a really good point. I'm not even from Iran anymore in my head.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything for Iran anymore because I don't know what's going on there and haven't seen what's been happening. So it's like, that's even my own country, and I don't even have any.
I think you still have links to that, and you have, like, American insight to bring with
Absolutely
your
zero.
No,
like,
it's not applicable.
It might have been 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Like, my friends, my family call me, hey, like, what's going on? Like, can you tell us? And, like, seek out, like, the knowledge from the other side of the world. Literally now, everyone's just like, yeah, I mean, local life, baby.
So your parents no longer, like, need information about global market because
no,
it doesn't affect them.
Neither my friends.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your parents also don't care about what's going on in San Francisco, really.
Yeah, but they were getting a lot of questions from Australians about Trump's election because they were worried about tariffs and stuff like that. So they were asking.
I mean, when you travel, that's a different story. People want to interact with you to first-handedly.
Get the first-hand information.
Exactly. When you meet someone in person, like, I'm pretty sure when I go to Iran or like see my parents face to face sitting next to them, that matters.
Yeah.
Then it becomes your life knowledge rather than I'm just a source of information for you. Because, like, okay, like, we have citizen journalism on every platform that you want. And then we have news that is covering pretty much everywhere of the world. So we don't really need to give our friends and family from different parts or, like, be really wanting to be knowing about all of those things.
Well, there's something else that's really kind of harmful that I feel that is in all of these platforms. I saw a tweet today of a guy saying, I'm hosting a dinner in SF. Anyone want to come?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's random people that he'd never heard of from India commenting like, can you live stream the dinner? And like other things like that. And to me, I'm just like, okay, there needs to be some boundaries here, that when you post something that you want connection with people that have something to do with you, like, you don't get just a bunch of random people reaching out.
Yeah.
Because no one can sort through all of that, and then it means they can't connect with anyone.
And that's causing an issue for someone in SF
Yeah.
that wants to get connected to someone in SF. Because
Exactly.
I think like we need to strengthen the links locally first, then go globally.
Mm-hmm. Well, we did that. We strengthened the links locally. We went globally. Globally started overpopulating local spaces everywhere.
Yeah.
And now everyone has mixed ideologies and is not talking to each other.
Yeah.
And the next generation of this, honestly, text platforms is like bots. Like, we're not controlling the bots. Everyone's using like generated GPT prompts that are like not really that real.
Not surprised.
Which like, honestly, yeah, like why are we doing that?
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if like there's a pivotal moment that there's a lot of people in SF that believe in tech moving towards all AI generated content. And that means that like this podcast we would create it virtually and then put it online somewhere.
I think this
and then other people would watch
completely
it.
got expired last year. I don't think we care about that anymore. Like, did you see what happened when Joe Rogan sat in front of Trump? That went absolutely crazy.
So then why are so many people building AI generated stuff, and they're all talking about like YouTube like maxing with AI generated content, and like, you know, everyone who's posting on LinkedIn is like using prompts, and
I think those people are trying to make a couple of like boxes, and that's okay.
Bucks?
Yes.
Bucks.
Like they're trying to make some money.
Well,
but
so
they're
that,
not going to change the culture of the world. They're not.
But they are changing the current social media, because that is clouding the overall conversations.
How do you see the change?
What?
How do you see the change happening?
New platforms.
No, like I want you to go in depth. Like, tell me like what is their strategy? How people are reacting to that, and what are they trying to actually get out of it?
Well, I mean, I think like basically what I believe, and this probably is not widely believed by other people, but I think that text is like kind of done. Like, we have to use the current platforms that are available to us now and that are reaching lots of people. But the time for selling to people overseas is going to get niche again. And we're going to strengthen America to the point that we sell internally. And that requires people talking again. And it requires platforms that have barriers of entry. And those barriers of entry are not just physical borders, but like online borders. And through those online borders, it will make a space for people to be able to talk again, to create business, because everyone is trusted, because they have something to do with each other, and it's easy to track who those people are and if they're like good people. But that's a very idealistic, because right now I feel like it's just trashed. It's just like absolutely trashed. Like, I really feel like social media is just like people complaining about things and complaining about those things and spreading a lot of fake ideas to get algorithms to favor them, to get reactions for people to believe in, and then they lead people into wrong ideas, and then everyone's just like confused.
So do you think that's the cause that is making people use AI generated I prefer AI generated content rather than human conversation? Because I was mostly curious about your comment of like, genuine human connections are something that people are not really looking forward to, and they're very excited about AI generated content. And I'm kind of like curious about how do you make that assumption?
Well, so there's like two things. So I think the way that we're using AI generated content right now is not really that creative or helpful. Like they're just using it to sell their business in mass in like really cheap ways. Like, but then there's another way that we could use AI generated content to do something really cool, like storytelling or something really creative, and use it as like a crutch to like present data, you know? But like I think the human feeling of connecting to another human online has like died.
What is the cause of that?
The problem of like too much outreach of people that are not relevant to you.
Yeah. And how like using, instead of human conversation like you and me sitting in front of each other, using video generated content is going to solve that problem, or why does that exist, you know, like AI generated content?
Well, yeah, like I don't really believe that will solve that problem, but it seems like that's where the market is headed in some directions. But then in other directions, it feels like people are going way more human.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously with the election, like Trump going on a 3-hour podcast as a politician is the most impressive thing that you can do as a politician, in my opinion. To talk for 3 hours straight about what you're believing is like really strong. And I do believe that everyone eventually will do some version of that. Not everyone, but like most people will start podcasts and do what we're doing in the future to talk to people.
Yeah.
Like that's how I see the world. That's how I see a benefit of the world. But
I think for me, that is also security check. If you're able to sit and have a conversation for 3 hours about broad, range of subjects, you are someone who has the capability of thinking clearly, mm-hmm. and you pass some heavy tests. And a lot of people sit and record podcasts with an agenda.
Yeah.
They have a topic that they want to talk about, which is not a bad thing. I don't have any problem with that. But I think the most raw format is you sit, you have that conversation without this.
Mm-hmm. But what if like people don't see how this would make money? Because like they're all using the current platforms to do a certain things for the algorithm to favor them. But there's also a group of people who follow trends but provide really valuable insights that work for the algorithm and for human mind.
Yeah, I think we have been spending majority of our lives shit talking and shit posting as people, okay? And let me explain to you what I mean by that.
Okay.
When Trump goes on to Joe Rogan and sits with him for 3 hours, he's not defining policies. He's not meeting with another foreign, leader to resolve some conflicts.
But that would be a cool podcast, wouldn't it? Like Putin and Trump for 3 hours talking. Yeah. I want to see that.
I don't think that would ever happen with those people, but I would love at some point leaders publicly have conversations like that with each other.
That would be so cool.
That would be amazing. I think we are moving towards that world. So here's a couple of things to that point that I was making. He is not doing any productive work. What he's doing is he's sharing his feelings mostly around how he sees the world with another human. And he's looking into that person's eyes and getting the feedback. If you do thousands of conversations like that in your life, you understand the person's feedback. You adjust your worldview based on that, and you refine it, and you refine it, and you refine it. We do the same thing with shitposting online, on X, on TikTok. A lot of people on TikTok are not posting serious stuff. The reason that they don't do that is There's not that many serious topics that you can talk about when you're in your 20s. So the point that I'm trying to make is you absolutely can give value to this, to the podcast. The reason that it's not widely known, it's the means of production of the podcast is not as easy as tweeting. So we need to make it easy for people to make podcasts in order for seeing a lot more people participating in this. And also, medium of video is always going to be something extremely painful, at least for 2-3 more generations of people, because writing a text on a screen, just like sending it, is 2 seconds. You can do 50,000 of those in 1 year. Okay, you can't post 50,000 videos in 1 year. I mean, you can post short videos if you're extremely active, like TikToker, but you can't do. I think like Joe Rogan has been doing podcasts almost every day for the past like 14-15 years.
That's insane.
And he has like 2,100 something like that episodes. Okay, it's like that guy with that many episodes, that many years, has 2,000 something episodes.
So you've mentioned something that like people do this feedback loop of talking to someone in person, looking at their eyes, hearing what they say, taking in all of the information, and having a better worldview. Like, that's my core belief. That's how I believe life should be lived. And I love to have conversations with different people. But wouldn't you be able to argue that there's people that are doing that feedback process online?
Well, it is happening. They're using the easiest way for themselves, whether it's Instagram or Twitter.
Yeah.
The problem that I have with Twitter is it gave birth to a bunch of super rich, super well-knowledge, but autistic people. Okay.
What is a bot autistic person?
But like the reason that I'm saying is like we evolutionarily want humans to be social. The charm that Trump has is when he meets someone, you can see that immediately he grabs that person's attention because he doesn't act in a way that someone who's really famous on X is acting. Okay, it's a charm. It's part of our human evolution. We should care about that. We should not glorify people who only are one-dimensionally understanding how the world works. If you know so much about the world, which I believe you do, if you're that much online and you're getting that many feedback from people when you share your thoughts online, if you really are that person, then why don't you even work more on your human-to-human interaction, in-person, face-to-face interaction? And I think that's
evolutionarily, wouldn't we get more human than less? Like, people's brains would get more inclined to talk to people than less.
Absolutely.
Inclined.
You think people, you think Trump was effective in winning the election with his truth social posts or his podcast appearances, which was
and
Barron's.
It's not just his podcast appearances, it's him going out and talking to people in person at rallies. That he won the first election like that. He had this plus podcasts.
But that as well. Okay. But there's a difference. Kamala did rallies as well. Rallies don't teach you anything because you have a bunch of people who are praising you. That's an echo chamber. That's dangerous.
That's not true, because when Trump talks, he talks about certain people that reach out to him and their stories. In depth, he goes and talks to people.
Well, he takes extra step.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Kamala didn't do that. Like, she doesn't have those stories.
She tried, but
people don't connect with her.
Yeah, she was using her camera instead of like her phone, her call app to reach out to those people. But in general, it's really and Kamala, trust me, Kamala is like the beginning of the out of touch with reality leaders that we are going to see way more. They're going to see Kamala as someone like she was the pioneer of this style of being a politician. The style that is so out of touch with reality that she thinks that she can like
buy her way into presidency.
Exactly. She thinks that
With money that's not hers.
Exactly. That's exactly the point. So I really believe that when you get to sit in front of people, there's a huge value that will allow you to be very like touching, and that will win you people. And if you win people over little conversations, and that's what I always want to have money. I love nice cars. I love to eat good quality food and sleep in a good quality bed, but no, I will exchange all of those comforts with the chance of having money to meet people, because I'm a curious person, and I think meeting people is really, really, really helpful with a lot of things that you need to know to pass it to the next generation. And I think I have a lot of work to do. Personally.
Isn't it crazy that became expensive? Like, when I was a kid, I don't remember that being expensive. Like, meeting people was a very cheap thing to do.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, you're so rich if you can like go interact with people every day.
Yeah.
How did that happen?
Well, we got poor. That's what it happened. The society doesn't have as much money. I was looking at something that was my personal experience. Like the GDP of Iran in the year 2000 was around 350 billion. GDP of Turkey the same year was around 250 billion. Okay. GDP of Iran in 2024 is 380 billion, 30 billion increase. GDP of Turkey is 13. Let me say it this way: 13.5 billion. It's a 9 billion increase. It's crazy difference. It's a crazy difference. It's like there are countries that stood the same, and there are countries that just completely revived themselves and just went up. Okay.
Well, it wasn't. Yeah, Argentina was like really prosperous.
Yeah. And I think US is one of those countries that if you look into the median income for people, the dollar amount might have gone up, but the return on that dollar spent is not as valuable. So in reality, you could have met a lot of people, or a lot of people could have met you, because they had the luxury of, okay, like California, we didn't talk about this because Newsom passed a law in all the crazy heat of the election, that he just increased the price of gasoline by 60 cents without even putting into the vote, without even asking the people. Well, that's going to you're trying to incentivize people to move towards electric cars, but you're literally in the short term, you're de-incentivizing people to meet their friends, because they're like, well, is this person really worth it for me to spend like $50 of gas when I don't have that money to meet?
Yeah.
That's a huge problem.
I love how you did that like in a very micro scale, because growing up, that was like the biggest thing as a teenager you would do, is you would drive to your friend's house, and that was the most expensive thing, was like paying for gas to get to your friend's house, or drive around all day, or drive around at night. And so if no one has money for gas, then they have to stay home, because they have to save that money to go to work with the gas that they have.
And that is going to increase the price of Uber Eats, because that car is driving with the gas. That's going to increase the deliveries of the food.
Stagflation.
And literally, it's going to create, a lot of issues with the society. It's not just that. And then you have a part of the society who's never affected by that. That 60 cents, it's not going to create any problems for you. But then that kid that is trying to live off of the budget that the parents like are assigning to them, it's that kid is not going to feel that,
Yeah.
that hype, and other kids are not going to be. So yeah, it's a domino effect.
Which I think it's changing already. I already feel it. Just there's some life going back into the ecosystem.
Yeah, there's no way that we will stay in this situation for that long. And I think once there's a general consensus around like, okay, like this is ridiculous and we should like dial it down. Like we don't really need to force people to move towards like electric car by making their life harder. So let's make it easier for them and incentivize that.
Yeah.
It's going to be better. It's going to get better.
Well, also
Common
like
sense.
there was a lot of companies that raised a lot of money like these past few years in the US. Like tons and tons of money.
Sure.
So don't you think that will go into the economy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that still is something that you need to take care of. Like, okay, so are we going to decrease the inflation, or are we going to increase the wages? So people, because we did neither. We did not decrease the inflation, and we did not increase people's wages to compensate for that inflation. So one of the things is going to happen, and I think the latter is going to probably be happening, because it's really hard to lower down the inflation initially, but you can increase the wages if you create that market stability. And I think like there's a lot of policies that are going to change, that are also going to allow people to experience a better life. For example, like if we open the gas pipe, like start drilling the oils again in the US, well, that naturally will make US a little bit more energy independent than other countries, which will decrease the price of energy. And that will trickle to California as well, even though he increased, like Newsom increased like 60%, 60 cents on the gas price. If the total is down, it's still going to be better for people in that sense.
I think also there's a lot of people trying to solve like very basic things that will make all of those prices cheaper with technology.
Yeah. What are the things that you really think that people are going to change?
Well, like Elon's changing transportation, right? So he's making self-driving cars. You don't have to pay for someone else to drive you, and you don't have to buy a car to live in the city. That's like a huge expense that you're cutting.
Yes.
There's people building robots to be maids and clean up your home. That will also solve like the time that you have to clean your home. I think there's like technology that's coming out that's like carbon capture, stuff like that will also like generate energy. I think I just kind of feel like there's a lot of people doing things in the energy space that are going to change the way that we see things and do things in the future, but we don't really know what will happen yet with it. Like using resources in a new way.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm totally optimistic about the future of humanoid robots being the thing, because I really believe that a system that is connected to something that is like AGI but not really AGI, that has capabilities of a human body, this is how I envision it. And I don't think it has been done yet, or at least I haven't heard about it. And this is my theory. We're going to have humanoid robots who are using LLMs in the short term, for now. LLMs that are extremely sophisticated. Like the chips have really good capabilities of doing a lot of like token, generation for the system to think and have a thought process, which is all dependent on tokens. And it allows that system to be able to make human decisions. So when it comes to doing a human task, that human or robot will observe the human around. For example, you're taking the human or robot to grocery shopping with you. The humanoid robot will see
With your kids, like the robot and
Yeah.
the kids and the mom
Yeah.
are like all shopping at the
Yeah,
and the robot's
exactly.
like, "Oh, you also need these things to make this tonight." Like
Well, I look at it this
you're
way.
out of paper towels.
Yeah, I know. It's like it's so fascinating. But what I was going with
And the
was-
robot sounds like Dan. Like the
You
guy
like
who
Dan.
flirts with you.
Yeah,
Like
do
the
you
robot.
like the Dan?
Dan flirts really well.
Cool.
I respect a robot that can flirt with me.
You can.
I'm very flirty, so
Cool. That's nice. That's nice. But I think with the human or robot, they're going to look at you and they're going to make a observation of the pattern of your doings, and then they're going to be helpful in that sense.
that's creepy. To me, that's creepy. They're like, okay, let me make your life even more efficient to the point that you're just like a perfect human.
Well, like, do you want humans to do the hand cropping, cutting the crops in the farms?
No, I don't mean it like that. I'm sure that robots will be really helpful in doing things that humans don't want to do, like dishes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay. But in terms of like assessing your life and changing it, and they're like, you should do this more and you should do that more and you should live like this more efficiently and these are the things that you should eat, and like
I don't think Waymo tells
completely
me any of those
processed. Well, you just said that a humanoid robot living in your house would assess your patterns
and
and
do the job instead of you, not telling you what to do.
we might have robots telling us what to do. We use GPT specifically to tell us what to do.
Okay.
Why wouldn't we use a humanoid robot?
Well, there are two different things. Okay. If I am talking to another human and I'm using GPT as a source of information, then I am the one who's passing that knowledge. I'm learning something from GPT, adding it to my current knowledge, and I'm passing it to another human. That's why we are learning from GPT.
It's optimizing you.
It's empowering you, optimizing you, making your knowledge base wider, making your knowledge more accessible.
But it's also making you processed.
Yeah, it gives some organization to you as well. Okay.
But it's not some organization, it's the only organization.
We are moving towards the only organization. I believe in that too.
Why do you believe in that? That would be interesting because I don't really believe in that.
You just said that it's the only organization, and I believe that you're right, that we're moving towards that. So I
But
agree
you
with
believe in that.
Well, yeah, because we believe in God. Okay, most of the people do believe in God, and I think there's like this convergence towards powerful unified systems.
So you think we've always lived like that as humans and this is not different?
Yeah, I mean our planet revolves around one sun. Our sun revolves around one center of the galaxy. Okay, our galaxy revolves around one cluster of galaxy center. It is always the one that we refer to. Okay, I do believe there's a convergence towards the super intelligence, and it's GPT, Claude, Llama, Grok, all of them combined with each other. It's a super system that makes an API call to all of these subsystems, and it's that one system that is having all of that access, which is really fast. Eventually. So that's happening already because we already are converging towards that language. There is no science being created without LLMs since last year. There's no boundaries being moved without LLMs. I also heard Jensen talking about next generation of their LLMs should have the capability of the not they don't have LLMs, but their chips should have the capability of extracting information from LLMs to a level that they are coding the hardware of NVIDIA chips, which is a incredibly different field, because we now have LLMs coding the software for those NVIDIA chips, not the hardware yet. If we get to the hardware level, it means that we're almost certain that we are not going to exceed the capability as humans. We are not going to exceed the capabilities of these systems, and these systems are going to control us. So that's why I believe in it. Okay, so your point was completely correct. But I also believe that any observation that is made by any of these systems, like humanoid robots or anything like that, in the end is at humans' mercy, even if they are,
because we have the unplug.
Yeah, I think knowledge is not everything. It's not even the unplug button.
So you mentioned like religion, and then you compared it to like us also following like GPT to tell us how to live our lives, to optimize money and stuff like that. God, yeah.
Not religion.
So with that creates like a structure and boundaries that you operate under, and we didn't like the structure of religion. And we in masses kind of just like went away from that and moved to the next thing. I think we went to billionaires, and then we're in the process of like billionaires and GPT. And with GPT, I think there will be another rebellion, because GPT will create a whole nother set of rules and boundaries we have to operate under that we're like, this isn't fun anymore. You know, because if like you follow religion, you're like, you can't do this, you can't do that, like you can't live freely as a human. And GPT will create those boundaries as well, that like you can't live freely as a human. What do you like?
I think there's certainly similarities, but I don't compare GPT to a religion. I compare it to the God. Not because I look at it as something that is really high, but it's something that is extremely unified. Okay.
So you have the God, and the God creates a subset of all of these companies that create religion of rules for people to follow, like a structure. Just like the prophets and stuff.
Yeah,
if you're comparing these two things.
Yeah, so religion is the different interpretations of God based on different cultures and regions of the world. And they created their own sets of rules. But the God in this sense is all of the information that we have gathered in one condensed file for a system to refer to as its constitution. And the constitution is the information that humans shared online, whether in the format of video, audio, text, books, like blogs, all of these. We only are adding to that, okay? So all of the companies, GPT, Claude, even Ilya's new company, they reached out of content. There's no more content that they can use. That they reached the deep end. There's nothing else left. They got everything. They scraped everything that they could have. The LLMs cannot expand without human contribution. That makes the LLM always at the mercy of humans. Because what will happen is the LLM will reach the max, and the max is below humans. You know why? Because we have body and we're walking outside all the time. We're hearing humans. We're talking to humans all the time.
Live feedback.
Excuse me. We are not experiencing what GPT is experiencing. GPT is the worst case scenario of that is a PhD student who you give it food, you give it shelter, anything, and then he's sitting in a room for for years, and you have to give it the information. So we reached the end of all of the internet data.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, internet came out of a woke time. So majority of the information that we are building the LLMs with are woke. And that's something that we only need a counterbalance to that to have really good understanding of the world to move forward. So
But wait, so they used the internet, but they used also like tons of books and like all of the other materials before woke era too, right?
how many books do you see
Compared to internet.
No.
That's a good point.
Yeah, but
I never
but
thought
I was
about
also
that.
going to take it to another step.
Okay.
How many books do you see in favor of Nazism?
Not as many as shaming Hitler, maybe.
Exactly. How many books do you see in favor of Genghis Khan? Okay. What I'm trying to say here is there are some...
How many books do you see glorifying World War II as America saved, everyone?
Exactly. Or
It's like so much.
Yeah, Britain saved everyone. I'm not necessarily siding with any of the political sides of any time. What I'm trying to say is the information that is available to people is limited to what the rulers of the time want people to know. And if the rulers of the time have this weird kink around some of the subjects that are not allowing people to publish it online, then you're not learning about that side.
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot have a God who doesn't understand Nazis fully. If a God only understands what it means to have Native American people's respect and how to treat asylees with the best intention at heart, which I believe you should know all of those things, is a one-sided God. Okay?
It doesn't know why. And so it feels artificial when it answers because it doesn't have the background.
It doesn't know.
So then
all
people
of
wouldn't
it,
gain
yeah.
trust in it and they wouldn't know why you shouldn't do that. It's just like raising kids.
Yeah, which is
Like you don't raise a kid and tell them don't do this because the first thing the kid is going to do is do that. So you have to explain to the kid, this will burn your hand if you put it on the stove.
Yep.
And it will hurt and it will cause a scar.
Yep.
And you did this before,
Exactly.
You have to go deep into explaining to the kid why they shouldn't do that so that they don't get burned.
Exactly.
It's like the same with an LLM, right?
Yeah.
So I never thought about that.
Yeah, and I really believe that one of the causes that I have so much difference between my friends who live in Iran and then my friends who live in the United States is that dual life that I had, that I experienced it in a completely different way. That a lot of people who were on the Democrat side during this election were looking at me as I don't know if I should interact with you because I don't think you are in touch with reality. But in reality, I'm the one who's looking at them and I have exactly experienced this. You have all of these celebrities lined up to get votes for Kamala. My country did that in 2014. Exact same tactic.
You're 10 years ahead of us in history.
In a lot of sense, yeah. And that's what I'm trying to say. It's
Does that mean that Republican era is uncharted territory for you? Because so basically the Democratic Party led your country for a long time. So you know their moves and it's like chess. You know what things they're going to play, what pieces they're going to move to control the society. So you understand that. But you didn't grow up in a Republican era of Iran, so this is uncharted territory for you. So you can't necessarily find the pieces. Do you think, is that true?
Well, we haven't started the Republican era yet.
Well, we are. I mean, everything in the government is Republican now.
Well, yes, but we still haven't. Okay, we still haven't started that. It's still at the leadership level, hasn't trickled down in the society.
Mm-hmm.
Once the farmer in California is following the rule of the Republican instead of the Democrat, then we can talk about that. Okay, but
Oh, so you want to keep your knowledge bank for a while.
But I wanted to say
Because
that
today, I think I already just felt that today that we're in a Republican era. Because I was only ever getting interviews from women, and now I'm getting interviews from guys. And they're hiring me.
Yeah.
Which, that is a complete flip.
That's a flip.
Which makes me firmly believe that Democratic Party was harming women this whole time.
That is something that obviously I saw, and my mom has always talked about this, and
we love your mom.
Yes. Shout out to mom. And I think like, yeah.
Go Hulu! Yeah. She'll probably hear that.
Yeah, probably, yeah. That's so, yeah, your assumption is correct. Like I know every chess move that a Democrat can play. So they're not going to fool me. Can a Republican fool me?
Yes.
Well, let's wait.
They can.
We'll see.
Whoa. You guys are friends, though.
Oh, totally. Like, I think that when I'm hearing those people, I'm like, I have been removed from my people for the past 6 years. Because in Iran, even though I lived in a Democrat country, I had Republican friends. I had free friends. I had people who did not believe in the establishment of Iran, which was Democrat. And it's so funny. Like, I do have friends that are Democrat or were ex-Democrats. And such an interesting... The politics are... People are not that individual. And countries are not that unique. That's all I can say.
It's all a pattern. And you just have to figure out the pattern.
Very similar patterns.
That's why I wore this shirt in honor of our conversation today.
Yeah, explain it to me. It
says Obey, which is a brand that was popular in the 2000s.
This looks like a really hippie shirt.
No, it's not hippie. And then it says propaganda on the bottom. So it's Obey Propaganda. And then this is like the anonymous sign of like the eyes.
It's a very...
He's angry.
Nose.
It's not really hippie. I don't know what subculture this is from, but it's definitely like almost beach goth, like San Diego. I'm pretty sure I got this shirt in San Diego.
I like the message though.
Yeah,
it's a powerful message.
It's ironic. It's like because it doesn't really want you to obey propaganda. Like it's saying the opposite.
Yeah, no, obviously.
I really like those kinds of shirts. I have a lot of collections of shirts like that. I have a shirt that says drink bleach with like a straw that has a like a flower on it. You know, so it's like a cocktail.
Yeah.
I have a lot of fun shirts. That's cool. That's Chloe's like signature.
That's
move.
Super cool. That's super. Yes, you did. When I entered your life, I know that you did have a signature of conveying messages, and you almost gave that to me. I got that Occupy Mars shirt.
Yeah.
To be like, like that was an influence that you had in the beginning of our relationship. And I had a bunch of other ones like from Big Bang Theory, if you remember, and that was that period that I was inspired by your. It was
my
such
shirts.
Yeah, it was such a 2010s thing actually.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
You think it's outdated? I think people still do that.
I would wear something like what someone was wearing in the SFFC, like defund the IRS.
That was so funny.
I know.
With a kilt on.
Yeah. Or like I would love to have that Make America hat. The
Which
founder
one?
hat. That is George Washington is wearing it, says Make America. Not Make America great again.
Just Make America.
I think we're in that stage right now.
Yeah, that's like much better than great again.
That's much more powerful. Oh my god, that's like okay, like how powerful can you be that you actually your mission actually was to make America, Not make America great again.
That's really
Make America.
true in the sense of like this new generation of what we're building is literally like changing the face of America. So we are rebuilding America essentially. Like,
Yeah.
and we're part of that. You
I
know?
think we're building America. I think America's going to be awesome. Have not seen America this optimistic.
Yeah. I'm
The
excited.
quietness is completely making sense because there's a lot of people who are uncertain about what's going to happen. Uncertainty comes from lack of exposure, and I cannot blame everyone for not being exposed enough to know that
They
it's
didn't
not
have your
scary.
insight, you know. Like a lot of people don't know who you are, and
They didn't, but they didn't also want to listen to me. That's something that
yeah, that's hard.
I was completely
Well, they
certain.
obviously they didn't listen to most Americans too, because most Americans changed the status quo. So like
I mean, listen.
the evidence is very obvious. If Trump got the popular vote everywhere, like it's a huge statement that a lot of people didn't listen to what humans want.
Yeah.
You know.
And you know, this was the sanity check moment for me, and I will explain to you why. I have been treated as insane since I moved to the US.
Insane.
Yeah, like really,
Yeah.
I'm alone.
Well, you're like a little bit of a genius, so that's the problem.
I don't see myself like that. I
Yes,
see myself.
you do.
He
Does. That's.
I do mostly see myself as curious than genius. Okay. So
You're very curious, yes, but you know you're a genius. I know you're a genius.
thank you, babe.
People will see it eventually when Melo works, and yeah.
That's very nice of you. I want to say that the moment that Trump got elected was a really important moment for me. Obviously, I was rooting for him, but it was way more personal than I don't know him. I probably will not get to talk to him. We'll see if Melo will get to that level ever within the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big if. But in my opinion, that moment was a complete sanity check. That if I was wrong, if I was for the past year, I quit my job because I knew this was coming. I started building Melo based around freedom of speech, around podcasts. Listen, 6-7 months ago, I'm going to tech events. I'm seeing the brightest people that you can ever see. Okay, these guys are trying to build AGI. These guys just know everything. And then I go to these events and they're like, yeah, I'm building the next humanoid robot. What are you doing? And I'm like, I'm building a video podcast platform. And these people are like looking at me as like, dude, what's wrong with you? Like, you're living at a time that you can change the history and you're trying to build YouTube? Like, are you insane? Like, who let you in? Like, you're not part of us. And literally, like, all of those guys, I've seen them one by one praising Barron for creating the podcast strategy for Trump because that was the winner strategy. Mm-hmm. And I'm seeing myself last year of like, okay, Americans need freedom of speech. There's a reason. Look, when I came to the US, yeah, shout out to your beautiful t-shirt. When I came to the US, I came when Trump was the president. There was nothing more important than Trump reviving America from outside. When I came to San Francisco, everyone hated him. Everyone hated being American. People still hate being American. People don't want to be nationalistic. This is so funny. Being nationalistic is not allowed in California. There is no sense of nationalism.
That's changing.
Look, it is changing, but I think it's still the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And I saw the change. I was like probably in the same ship that Mac Miller was. I was probably on the same ship that Trump was. When you listen to Trump, okay, one of the things that was really important for me was I lived in Iran. I knew Iran was being exploited by China. Okay. Then you hear Trump saying China's exploiting us. This is 2013. This is him before even announcing that he will run. As a teenager, I easily connected these two dots to see which person is telling the truth. Okay? And then when I come here and I'm telling people, no, not all Republicans are evil. This is 2016, 2017, 2018. And people are looking at me as like, you don't belong to this country.
Yeah.
Because you're not American. You don't understand American ideology. And I'm like, so if I think that Trump is good, I'm not American. Okay, I gotta live, so I'll zip it up. But deep inside, I know that's not the case. And Trump is listening to people of America. Trump himself was someone who was liberal, was the Democrat, was someone who believed that he was pro-choice. Surprise. Okay. Look at his history. This guy is the most politically correct. He goes to national TV. So many things about him.
So, like, could you say that the most successful people and the smartest people are the people who just do what you were talking about earlier? Take feedback from a lot, like, amazing amount of people and transmute it into their own message and tell other people that message, and it will resonate with so many people because they had so much exposure to so many people in their life that they connect on a deep level with most people.
Yeah.
And that's why Trump won the election.
Absolutely.
Because he's good at connecting to humans. Because, like, I'm from California. I was a liberal. I was a Democrat. Like, not really on the extreme side. I was always like mid, and I grew up in San Diego, so like conservatives were pretty normal in my life, and my grandparents are deeply Republican.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was crazy to think, oh, like, Trump's gonna be president, like this racist asshole that like took away you know, women's rights and is like convicted rapist, all of these things that they say about him. But when I watched that podcast and I heard him talk, I was like, there's no way that he's anything that these people are saying. Because everything that he said, like, nearly to the T, resonated with me.
Yeah.
And it made sense.
Yeah. When someone's real and telling you real stuff, look, it made sense 2013.
Yeah.
The reason that people didn't want to listen to him 2013, that China's exploiting US, was they were benefiting from that. People are like, well, we live in a global village. What's wrong with that? Let them do that because we are also exploiting them for what we want out of them.
Well, and we were just fed by the news that he was doing all of these things. He was a fraud. He was a fake billionaire. He was taking immigrants, you know, rights away. He was like raping women. There was so much bad press on him that it was almost impossible in the beginning to understand who he was. And he also didn't really do a good job messaging himself that first time because he appealed to like only a certain amount of people at a certain level of knowledge that made people in big cities feel like he's stupid.
Well, I think he would never get academic people agree with him still. Okay.
Yeah.
I think, well, not. It's he's more popular among academic people, but still that's his weak point, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah, because like they
real.
communicate on a level that is probably like more intellectual than us.
Yeah.
So they're still experiencing that feeling. So if Trump can get even more intellectual, maybe they would like understand it better. Is that what you mean?
No, I'm not. Yeah, I mean, I what I mean is like it's not how sophisticated Trump is for them that they would accept him or not. It's deeply rooted into indoctrination. Academic people spend a lot of time convincing themselves that this is the right way of looking at things.
Yeah.
There is no way that you can convince a professor who has been saying the same thing. Look, professors are exactly like preachers, like the preachers, like the clergy people. They say something for so many years constantly. I had a engineering mathematics like professor. He was almost towards the end of his career, and he said, I have taught this course 46 semesters consecutively. You cannot, can you, for the intervals of 6 months, repeat a cycle from the beginning with anything that you're doing right now?
Yeah, so it's like not applicable. Like anything that I said last year is not really applicable to my life now.
Yeah.
Because I take information from people in real time.
Exactly.
And that's crazy because you have kids from all of those different times. Wouldn't your kids change your curriculum? Like, I don't know. I don't understand.
Mathematics.
Well, yeah, there's some hardcore things that never change, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like math doesn't change.
Yeah, Newtonian math is still Newtonian math from 1700s. We have people in academia that they are feeding information to big cities that are telling people like Trump are not educated enough to understand what's going on in the world. People like Trump talk to people day to day. He talks to construction workers. He talks to managers, middle managers. He talks to higher level managers. He talks to
he doesn't
billionaires.
talk to like researchers and like heavily academic people.
He does talk to those people too.
Does he?
Yeah, of course he does.
Are you sure?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, are you?
I don't
me?
hear him ever talk about that.
Well, he that's not his audience.
That's my point though. So like I don't think like
he talks to them, he doesn't serve them.
I understand, but I think there's like a level of people that are way smarter than me in terms of research, that are not indoctrinated, that have done heavy research into like one subject. Their lens maybe is narrow, but I don't think when Trump talks, he can reach those people because they're heavily based on facts and not human experience. Mm-hmm. There's people in the world like that. I'm definitely like the opposite spectrum. I like everything that I believe in is a human experience. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that believe the books that I studied are my experience. And when Trump talks, they don't relate to him.
Well, you know the issue with those people?
You're going to piss a lot of people off.
Sure. You know the issue with those people is they don't understand what Trump is trying to achieve is max 8 years. Okay? He cannot run his campaign on global warming that is happening 500 years from now. And he's real enough to know he should not run his 4 years of work campaign.
Yeah, but Obama ran his campaign on global warming.
I'm sorry, what did Obama do?
Global warming.
Yeah, we are still going up with the charts. All of the charts are up the roof for global warming. The temperatures are still increasing. If you would have told me Obama with 8 years of that and 4 years of Biden stopped the rise, I would have been convinced.
So you're like, that's in the hands of researchers?
That's in the hands of
human behavior.
Humans generationally. Period. Okay. And we cannot expect politicians to talk to those people.
Well,
I believe real problems of the real today, we call them kitchen table problems, right? Those are the most important things that anyone in real life should worry about.
I genuinely believe that we are closer to discovering tech that will solve that problem than changing human behavior.
Yes. Well, it's that the solution to that is, the solution to that is really simple. we need to use nuclear, solar, efficient sources of power generation to stop green gas emissions.
Mm-hmm.
In order to do that, we need safer nuclear reactors. We need more efficient solar panels. We need revolution in material science. We need revolution in physics. We need revolution in, manufacturing, engineering. And yes, LLMs, AI, all of these technological advancements that we're making.
So could you argue that because Trump will promote business and tech and have that ecosystem thrive, that would indirectly solve some of those issues?
100%.
Instead of the regulations and stopping things from happening in the short term.
That's exactly the case.
Yeah.
And people like him that are believe in moving forward, not slowing down to avoid. Look, there's no way with slowing down you're gonna get people to not use carbon. You couldn't get people to not use carbon.
Yeah.
So stop. You're never gonna hold people back. Humans are evolving constantly. We are evolving. One of the things that we earlier during this podcast we're talking about was you were telling me that our brain cannot handle all of that information that we get from social media and stuff. You know what? We should be handling that. We should be taking all of that information. All of them. Listen to me. All of them.
Then why do I feel depressed after scrolling?
There's a reason. We are not looking at it from a perspective of this shouldn't depress you. This should only add information to who you are for you to survive better. You should not internalize that this is not happening to you. You need to understand this information, add it to the database of your information.
But it's not like I don't even consume things that are bad that are happening to other people. It's like information overload of different directions that makes me feel confused and then bad that I don't understand it.
I think that all of that will get resolved if you continuously push the limits of your brain in taking all of this information. So
you'd see the patterns and assess how to navigate it.
Yeah. I don't think the solution is to not use social media because a lot of people are doing that. I don't think the solution is not to talk to people because you're overloaded, because you're tired of repetitive conversations.
It's the opposite. You need to talk to more people. You need to be more active.
Yeah, exactly. You need to accelerate. You need to go forward. You need to, and the acceleration, what I mean is like we are on the trajectory of getting the global warming happening to us within the next 500 years. Can we make everything in the scientific world go as fast as possible so we avoid that as soon as possible? We know this is a fact. People don't understand this. People who are like, if you believe in space exploration, I don't want to talk to you. People don't understand this. It's a fact. You will never be able to change it, no matter if you're a communist or a capitalist. The fact is, in few billion years from now, the sun will expand to the orbit of the Earth, will push all of the solar system planets outside of the solar system. It's going to explode. The sun is going to explode. We're not going to have a solar system. We're not going to have the Earth. This is a fact. You're not going to be able to stop that. The only thing that you need to do is day and night work towards a solution to keep the civilization alive, because you will never be able to convince me that few billion years from now human beings are going to sit and look the explosion of the sun happening.
Like the dinosaurs?
Yeah. They're not going to do that.
There's an asteroid.
Exactly. Yeah, that shirt.
I do. I have a shirt that has a dinosaur running from asteroid.
Exactly.
And one of them's like looking back like, oh.
So that's not going to happen.
But that's a crazy, interesting intersection. It's like we're dividing in so many ways as a society that we have like accelerationists and de-accelerationists. Mm-hmm. And there's people trying to like save humanity like 100 billion years from now.
Exactly.
And there's
Not 100
people,
billion years. It's like
there's
2
people that
billion.
are literally trying to make humanity extinct like today.
Yep.
And
They gave up. They're not trying to. They gave up. Peter Thiel was talking about this, and it's really dark. He was saying, if you have 8 billion people, half of the population being women, there are 4 billion people, okay? If those women, which is happening right now, on average have one kid or somewhere between 1 or 2 kids, this means that your 8 billion population is going to be 1 billion. Sorry, 4 billion. It will cut to the half. We already, with this not giving a lot of birth, are creating that extinction. It's not because we want humans to go extinct. It's just we gave up.
Mm-hmm.
How many Gen Z people have given up? I have a really close friend, one of my best friends from high school. Really good guy. He literally gave up. He's not talking to me anymore. He's not talking to my other friends. We don't know what he's doing with his life.
Yeah.
He literally gave up. He's my age. Like, there's so many other people like that. People do suicide, people overdose, but people give up. They're alive, but they gave up. You don't see them active, okay? They're not reproducing. They're not getting married.
Yeah.
It's a sign of giving up. And I feel like that group, if there was an asteroid hitting right now, would be sad of dying. I know that for a fact. That no one wants to die. No one wants to deliberately go extinct. It's the indirect thing that you're doing. And Peter Thiel was saying that when you create something like that, that then your next generation, instead of 8 billion, is going to be 4 billion. Then if this math continues within the next 900 years, unwantedly, we're going to go extinct. And then there's no way that you can reverse that, because it's suddenly you have policies that are serving the majority, because the majority always gets the votes in the politics. So this suddenly is becoming a huge existential threat for us, that we almost have to protect some humans in the next 900 years to live outside of the earth, because if they stay here, they're just gonna experience the same mental famine that will make us go extinct.
Yeah.
So I just really believe that, like, all of the signs in front of us says, like, you survived billions of years to not go extinct in just less than 14,000 years of being civilized. That's insane. You got to reverse that. And there's no way that you can do it.
Yeah,
by
that's so
stagnation.
insane to think about how many generations, like, tried to survive for you to be here today.
Yeah.
And you want to stop that. It's really scary.
Yeah.
Like, you should respect and appreciate that, like, to the core.
The pain of the growth of
Yeah.
those unicells.
And, like, all of the horrific things that humans went through in the past that you don't have to experience anymore. And you're like, oh, my life is hard. Like,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, we're all a product of rape. Like,
Yeah.
what the fuck?
Yeah. No, I totally get that. It's like we got so ridiculous also. I'm sorry. I think your body, your choice, and your whatever you want to do in your life, do it. But I think we're a little bit ridiculous with not understanding that there are two genders in this world, and for survival we need that. And I'm genuinely saying, like, can we come out of our head a little bit and understand our biology is telling us we need to fuck and we need to reproduce and we need to have those genders existing in order for us to still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
Because whatever role that you're doing in your head might not necessarily be what your reality should be because of the physical body that you have. And then if you fuck up the chemistry of that body, then you're going to be unhappy. And when you're unhappy, you're going to make other people, your parents are going to be sad for you. Your friends are going to be sad for you. Okay? And if you have kids one day, they will be sad for you. So yeah, just why would you even want to go through that? That's something that I feel like we got too conceptual.
Yeah.
Like it's like the art, you know?
Overthinking things. But
Too
it's
much
not
into
just
our
that.
head.
It's also like I do believe it's like economics are playing into this, that people our age can't afford homes, can't afford kids, can't afford like good food, a lot of problems, and the
Yeah.
problems pile up, and then you spiral, and you have to keep fighting. I mean, survival is fighting those common like things that are facing
Yeah.
you, but it like life became so easy that like you don't really have to actively fight to stay alive, but you have to actively fight to have your genes passed on.
Yeah.
So
But like that's the point though. Like if you do physical altercation, right? That there's you biologically cannot reproduce, then you can't. That all of those things that you're doing, then it's just for you. And living just for you, it's not defined in our biology. We are maximized to have attraction towards the opposite sex, not because it's conservative, just because it's the way that our body wants to keep itself alive.
you know what I cannot believe at all is like, so Republicans are all complaining about why are we putting money into changing people's bodies in public school without permission from parents, like to have like a transgender kid come to a teacher and say I want to change my sex to feel better, and they can consensually like go to a doctor without parents' approval and change like their gender.
Yeah.
Okay, so Republicans are mad that we're spending money on that, and they're mad that like the government has that much power. But if you look at it from the other lens of like being that kid and being on that side that like people should change their gender if they want to, why the fuck would you trust the government with something like that?
Yeah.
Like that's just
the last
mine.
person I would think of
That's the
going to.
last person that should be involved in that. Like,
Yep.
no matter the politics, like I would never trust the government with my body.
Yeah, if
That's so dumb.
yeah, if the government is like, yeah, I'll support you in that. Can you? I mean, we are Americans, right? Like, can you be a little bit skeptical?
Like, yeah, like are you serious? Like, just because you grew up where like liberal ideology was reigning for the past like decade or two,
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that the government is not going to harm you. Like,
Yeah.
I think I knew from a very young age that like you should never trust the government, and I had teachers tell me that in school, that you
Yep.
should never trust the government.
Yep.
And I mean, I'm like on the spectrum of like anti-government, probably like way stronger than the average person, but still.
General consensus is do not trust the government.
Yeah, with your body,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
So, like, how did liberals go from like, oh, the government is taking our body rights away, in the same side as like, let's let the government change our body? Like, it's just like hysterical to me.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah.
That should always be a private issue between you and your family.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I think that's that's extremely true, and you should be skeptical of an external entity that its job is to control people to give you the freedom, which is
You're a sheep being herded, and you're like, yes, please beat me with a stick.
yep.
Makes no sense.
No, it makes no sense.
Anyway, that got derailed, but there always has to be anti-government sentiment in our podcasts. That's
Love
the
that.
core of us.
That's totally our core. And hey, it looks like that we are not the only ones now.
No, we're the
People-
majority.
Yeah, we are the majority.
Nice.
Hooray.
I'm excited about that.
I think going back to that thing about me like being ahead of the time and the sanity check, I completely view the world with a different confidence now.
Me too, but probably you more.
Way more. I feel like I told you so for the past 15 years of my life.
Who are you saying? Who's that voice directed to in your head?
Every single person that I interacted with, including you.
I'm hurt.
No, it's okay. I mean,
I've been the only one standing by your side.
I think you were closest out of all of
Well,
them.
you obviously, like, two people living together influence each other the most
True.
compared to other people. Like, you cannot possibly have as much influence over your friends as you have your partner.
True.
And your parents even is like less influence than your partner.
Well, yeah. I mean, I haven't lived with my parents for the past 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of time.
And we shouldn't agree on everything. That would be creepy. That would mean that someone has all of the control.
Right. I think that's not what I'm saying, though. I do not have any kink for details.
What do you mean?
Look, so when
What
you say,
does that mean?
so it means that when I said, like, I told you so is not the details of exactly. I don't want people to exactly think like I do.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have that kink. I don't want them to follow the details. I want.
It's the general concept.
Yeah, so the I told you so is like, this guy's gonna win. The reason that he's gonna win is because he's right. The reason that he's right is he's real and he's listening to real people's problem. And the reason that those people are trusting him is because he's real. And they trust him with their real problems.
So this is an interesting point, though, because not all presidents that are elected had that effect on the people like that. You know?
That's very true.
Like
we had JFK like this. We had
Yeah.
Roosevelt. We had Lincoln. We had founding fathers. Okay, there are, and I would honestly, this is crazy. Okay, this is extremely crazy. But I also, but I really feel like that Trump, for me, he can go higher than a lot of those people. Because like JFK obviously couldn't complete his promises, and I know that he could have done something really great because he did the moon landing.
Yeah.
And he was the beginning of the beautiful Democratic Party that we just saw its ending, at least that period of time, this cycle, that it got really ridiculous. Like, I think the last 3 cycle, it was the most ridiculous, you know? It almost feels like that the fulfillment of the dream of the Democrats from the 60s was the manifestation of Obama, and the end of Obama was the end, and they should have let it go. But they were feeling good about the power, and there was no strong leader that wanted to step up, so they used their backup players, and the backup players with manipulation got 1 term, but the other 2 terms they lost. So
well,
I
and
think
it got too close to the deep state. I really believe that.
For sure.
Kamala was just a deep state. Like, she
Yeah.
wasn't her own entity. She wasn't her own person. There's no way you would raise $500 million for your presidency if you weren't backed by the deep state. Like, that's insane.
We've been talking for more than two hours right now.
Yeah.
Okay. Obviously, and we're talking about the government. We're showing who we are, raw. We laugh, we get emotional, or just like, you know, our voices go up and down. And we're real. Like, we're just publishing this to the people to see who we are. Why couldn't she do this? I mean, if she's not connected to some deep...
Yeah, if we
deep
can
state,
do this with like negative money in our bank account, why can't she do this with $500 million?
Yeah, why can't she do this? It's because obviously she's not herself. She doesn't have her own thoughts. She can't be real because she can't. If she starts becoming real, it's dangerous for all of the people who are supporting her. So in reality, that's not going to work for the people.
Yeah.
The real guy who will sit in front of everyone and gets roasted, and the people are just like, yeah, like, look, Trump in 2013, 2014, when he wanted to run, man, that guy went through hell. This time around, people were so nice to him.
Mm-hmm.
He got so much roasting in the beginning when he started running. It's incredible. Just if you go back, watch the videos, how different people from different countries, how they talk to him. Like he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. When he says, let's make America great again, people are laughing at him. They're like, what are you talking about?
Mm-hmm.
He's like, we have immigration issues, and people are like, what are you talking about?
He was really ahead. Yeah.
Well, he was not ahead, actually. He tapped in to the realness of the world.
To people that were not publicized online.
Anyone
right?
Yes. Not just at people online, people offline, all of them. At any time, I can guarantee you there are people more real than Trump right now in this world. Are they the leaders? No. Will they have the balls to become the leaders? Maybe. Hopefully. But at any time, if you want, it's out there for you to be real. You can be online. You can look at the people offline as well. Collect everything that you need. Like, do not have the humiliation king, but have toughness so you can have tough conversations with people who don't want to have those conversations with you because they think that you're not smart enough.
Yeah, because the point of a conversation should always be to learn something new, not to prove what you know. Because if you're just always trying to prove what you know, then you don't know anything.
You don't know.
Because, like you said, we're going back to the feedback loop of getting information from people to bring it to like yourself and change your opinions. If you're not going through that cycle, you're going through extinction.
Exactly. And stagnation causes extinction. I am not happy with how quiet SF is.
Yeah. It's really quiet.
It's
dead silence.
It's bad. Not good for humanity. We should revise the way that we're looking at it.
Looking at SF or living
life,
here?
at humanity. Not you and me, no, humanity. Should revise the way that we're viewing. Humanity is beautiful. Humanity is really beautiful. Loving is really beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So, in order for us to love hard, we need to work hard. In order for us to love hard, we need to have abundance. Let's create the abundance.
Yeah. Let's create like the ecosystem around us that we can share with each other to grow. You know,
absolutely.
That's like needed. That's necessary, but in an individual sense, not like a community sense.
Yeah.
Like think about how big Trump's web like goes, you know?
Yes.
Like every human is capable of that.
We need to look at individualism.
Mm-hmm.
Community doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, community is like, let's safeguard freedom of thought.
Actually, community means like, I believe in these kind of, like this number of people, and everyone outside of this doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
Individual says...
That's like, let me close off myself because I just want to keep resources within this group of people.
Yeah.
And individualism and capitalism is like, I need resources all the time from everyone. So I need to put myself out and just go get resources from all of these people. Yeah. But in order to get resources, I have to have resources to give. So then I have to get resources from here to give to this person so that I can get these resources. And you're just like sharing resources in a wide sense that you have more.
Yes. This is economical. Mm-hmm. One of the best economical things that you can do to an ill economy that is facing inflation, stagnation, a lot of different problems is to leave it the fuck alone. So all of the individual parts of the market can talk to each other freely, so they can find their way out of the mess. Mm-hmm. Individual particles of that market must talk to each other freely. in order for the economy to heal. We are a micro contributor to that economy with Melo. We are going to form an LLC, maybe a corporation at some point. We are two people. As we grow, we might pay people more or pay people, generate money for the society, and that's always the goal. And then our people will spend that money in the society. We will spend that money in the society. It's just like the cycle that you do. Why wouldn't you allow that happen naturally? If they would have allowed that happen naturally, Melo would have had funding by now. Hundreds of other startups would have had funding by now. We went through a dry spell. If you look at the Carta data, you can see that the past 2 quarters is just constantly dropping. Why? There's a group of people controlling that. The community mentality is controlling
Investment
that.
thesis.
Yeah. Let's do safes. Give us a discount in the next round. Like, just give us everything that we would want. And individuals don't have any power here because communities are making, YC is making the decision for all of the tech startups. They created safes and now everyone is following them. What a surprise. Not cool, bro. Not cool.
They say that safes are good for founders.
Yep.
You don't think so?
They say that.